Welcome to our Backyard Brothers podcast. We're here talking college football national championship, NFL playoffs, and all things football, really today. So we're gonna jump right in. We don't have a memory today because we did one last week, and we're kind of pushing some things, and we don't have a basketball minute. No one could come up with a basketball topic, although we'll probably do a NBA midseason report soon. Technically, every team has now played more than half of their games, so midseason report coming up. So instead, we're just going to jump right into college football and talk about that national championship game. I am going to share my screen real quick. Can you all see this?
Yes.
Okay.
It is there.
So some of the scores were off last week. I went back and fixed them. Technically, Cody, Dustin, and I all finished in a tie for second, and Yancey won by one. uh, so that's the way it worked. But this championship game, I was 1 point off. I said 34-24, and it was 34-23. Ohio State beating Notre Dame, and so let's talk about this game. What did you guys see? I pretty much saw a Notre Dame team that fought as hard as they could to stay in the game and just never could quite get back into it.
Yeah, that's kind of what it was. Like as you can see, I had predicted Ohio State was going to win, so that didn't surprise me. But I think what did surprise me is how easy it seemed for Ohio State's offense just to completely shut down their defense. And we all know Notre Dame's defense is really good this year. You don't get this far without at least a pretty decent defense. So I was just surprised that they were just kind of treating Notre Dame like the Ducks. A few weeks before it was 31-7 at half or something like that. And then if you think about it, the second half they only scored 3 points, and so that was really good. Second half play by Notre Dame, but it was way too late at that point. You can't let your opponent score 30 plus points and expect to come back. Even with 30 minutes of play time. So.
I guess maybe not a comment on the game, but comment on Ohio State in particular, right? They were ranked in the top 5, maybe, but they're number 2 or number 3 for a little while, up until they lost a game late, and dropped out. And I think that the purpose of the college football playoff was here, and that those teams that have bad luck near the end of the season can still have a shot at it, and they proved it. When you look at their playoff run, I forget who was their opening round matchup.
Tennessee, yeah.
Yeah, so beat Tennessee, a strong SEC team, and then Oregon, right? Mm-hmm. And then Texas. I mean, there's no cupcakes in any of this. This is a team that beat 4 extremely good teams that had proved that they were worthy to be there. In order to win this championship. I mean, this was fantastic playoff run by Ohio State, and this championship is worth more than perhaps any other championship in college football history has ever been.
Yeah, I think I agree with basically everything everybody said, and I would tack on that Ohio State just seemed like they were able to outgun Notre Dame on both sides of the ball longer, and Notre Dame only played exceptionally for half the game, and you can't finish a team of that caliber that while still making mistakes. And so I think that Ohio State proved they were the best team in the league this year by beating the teams that Dustin pointed at earlier. Saying, Texas is no slouch. Neither is Tennessee, and neither was Oregon. For most of the season, they were arguably 3 of the best teams, and you know what I mean, in the top 10. So I think that it was impressive that Ohio State overcame those teams, and I think that Notre Dame did deserve to be there. I didn't think that they got beat so bad that I don't believe they belong there, but also it just showed how much more Ohio State wanted to win. It was reflected in the score and throughout.
Two last things for me. Just Ohio State won all 4 of these playoff games by double scores, by multiple possessions, and so that's really impressive, especially against the teams that Dustin you pointed out. That these are 4 really great teams. They won all of them by multiple possessions. And I remember after Ohio State lost to Michigan, we were talking about Ryan Day's job because he's now lost 4 or 5 to Michigan. And I remember Dust in particular saying the only way he keeps his job is if he wins the national championship game.
There you go.
Well,
So,
sticking around.
yeah.
I
Anything
think-
else about this game? Go ahead, Cody.
Yeah, sorry. I really like what you said, Dustin. Though, like they beat 4 really good teams through the playoffs, and I love the new format because it requires you to it requires it to not be a fluke. Essentially, you have to. There's no way you're gonna go and beat 4 really good teams just by chance or just because of whatever else. You have to be good. You have to prove it game week in week out. So I like that a lot, and in a way. Maybe this is a stretch, I don't know, but in a way, it's the closest. And excuse me, I guess that's with really any playoff system, but it's the closest that you can get in football. With the idea of, I know in basketball they play the best of 7 idea, right? And so that way you have your best game. Well, it's the closest you can get, I think, in a football kind of world where you have to beat 4 really good teams in a row to get to the championship and win. And so it really is that best of 4, if you will, or kind of idea. And so. There's no doubt that Ohio State was the best team because they wouldn't beat everyone easily and soundly. Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
I was going to show these real quick from way back when.
Oh boy.
And so Cody had nothing right in the final. Either did Dustin. Look at me.
Oh, way to go, dude.
And Yancey did
Close.
it too.
No way. That's wild.
We both picked
I
Ohio
got
State.
that.
Neither one of us had.
Hold on. I had
Notre Dame. You did have Notre Dame
I
in it,
had
but you had
Ohio
them losing.
State losing to or beating Notre Dame. Or no,
Yeah.
to Oregon, sorry.
Oregon. hmm
Yeah.
I did not have Notre Dame in there at all. Here's the real one, by the way. Everyone knows how that looked. But
Interesting.
okay, I'm going to stop sharing this one and open up the next one.
What would that have paid had I done that? Had I put $5 on Ohio State at the beginning of the year? I wonder.
I don't know. They're probably a pretty good favorite.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, at the beginning of the year, though, because didn't we do that before the season opened?
No, we did that. We did this when the playoff happened.
Oh,
At
never
the
mind.
beginning of the
Never mind.
playoff,
Sorry.
yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Okay.
That's a whole different. That's a whole different thing.
Yeah. Let's jump into the divisional round, reviewing this particular game, the Texans against the Chiefs in Kansas City. Really cold game. And look at the score. Kansas City ended up winning 23-14. I was the closest again. I was off by 2 points this time.
Sorry, did you say Texans versus Chiefs or versus the refs? I'm not sure if I heard you right.
We'll get into that in a second.
And were you the closest? Hold on, go back.
Dustin was off by 3 points. I was off by 2. So
27-7 was your predicted score.
Oh, Yancey. Sorry. I was
There we
looking at mine. Sorry, Yancey.
It's all good. I got you.
Yancey was the closest by 2 points, and Dustin was by 3. So, yeah. Okay. Looking at how it turned out here when the Chiefs were on offense, Mahomes was okay. 16 of 25 for 177 and a touchdown. Travis Kelce was the one that really showed up in that playoff game. 7 catches for 117 and a score. But really, both defenses were fantastic in this game. Both defenses really had a lot of great play, elite play there. When the Texans were on offense, C.J. Stroud threw for 245, but no touchdowns, no interceptions. Joe Mixon did rush for 88 yards and a touchdown. Nico Collins showed up really well. George Karlaftis had 3 sacks. He was fantastic for the Chiefs. But yeah, let's talk about this one. Cody, you said something obviously in a little bit of anger, but I think in some ways, you look at the totality of the season. I don't think in the totality of the season the Chiefs have been favored any more than any other team throughout the regular season. This game was different. I don't know what was about it, but sometimes you have bad calls in a game, and that's just normal. You accept bad calls that go anyway. It was crazy that all of the bad calls favored the Chiefs in this game. That was you don't want any of that kind of stuff to actually happen, like any kind of scandal going on, but it made me think about it a little bit in this game. I will say that. So but
I think I would disagree with your overall synopsis of the Chiefs not having a lenient from an out. I don't really care if the Chiefs perform well or don't. I actually thought they would win this game. So I think I have seen some kind of wacky stuff in the review of games, of picks that would just kind of make you go, I don't know about that on penalties getting called against other teams. I'm interested to hear Dustin's perception of this, being that he's a Chiefs fan, especially for this game.
My perspective is, if you rewind the clock 20 years ago, we were probably all sitting down in our basement saying the exact same things about Tom Brady, except our voices were more cracked.
100%. 100%.
So this is a conversation that always, no matter what, surrounds the best players in any sport whatsoever. Michael Jordan. Oh, he always gets fouls. Michael Jordan pushed off. He pushed Byron Russell. This is a conversation that happens for the best players and the best teams all throughout history. It doesn't matter who those best teams are. If they're good, people complain that the refs favor them. And so don't act like you're doing anything innovative or calling out something like that. You're just following a pattern that's existed in all of history.
Fair play.
I think you're right for the most part, Dustin. However, I think I agree with Scott in this particular game. And there was two main reasons that really, I don't know, I guess just shocked me is a good word to use. The roughing the passer penalty, where they didn't even touch him until they just kind of fell on him. They actually hit each other. The two teammates hit each other. Yeah, and then they just kind of fell on him, which we know is not a roughing the passer penalty. And then the second thing that really bothered me more about Patrick Mahomes than anything else, and kind of made me lose a little respect for him, was him trying to pull that soccer trick when he was pushed out, and you saw him just go and flop down. And even the commentators, Troy Aikman and Joe Buck, were like, "Oh, are you kidding me?" And everyone saw that. I'm like, "Really, dude? Like, get out there and compete." Like, I honestly, I still hate the Chiefs, but I wouldn't care as much had they just played and calls were right and they won the game. I mean, that's kind of what everyone expected anyway. The Chiefs would win, but I mean, it just really, really shocked me. And this was different. It was definitely different.
Cody, it definitely didn't impact the outcome of the game. Mm-hmm. Chiefs were going to win. In fact, they gave them 2 free points at the end. And I agree that both of those plays you called out, I also rolled my eyes and said, no, that shouldn't have happened. And again, I would call back to, I remember, again, back in the mid-2000s, Ray Lewis gets blocked and falls and barely touches Tom Brady's leg, and they call roughing the passer. That kind of stuff happened, and Ray Lewis had this huge rant, said, just make it 2-hand touch. If you want to protect him, just make it 2-hand touch. And so this is, again, I go back to, this is what people have complained about for history, is that top players are favored by the refs. And you know what? I think there's a whole lot of truth to it. And it exists, and it's not something that's going to change, but it's something that's going to be complained about for a long time. And hopefully that we can ask for fairness.
Yeah. I'm going to split the difference real quick and just say, Cody, I agree with Dustin that it didn't really impact the final piece of this game. The Texans made so many mistakes, especially on special teams, that the Chiefs were going to win this game regardless of a ref helping here or there. If that was the case. The second point, and I technically I guess I agree with Dustin here too, but can you really blame Patrick Mahomes? He's getting all these calls from the refs. He might as well try to get another one. So, and so
Something
it's
he's really good at is selling, is sliding late or selling a hit. It's a skill, the same way that James Harden has a skill for selling a foul. Like it's a skill.
Yeah. It's dumb, and we've talked about it on this podcast, but that sliding too late, like Patrick Mahomes did in that game, and flopping, both should be unsportsmanlike conduct fouls. But
I agree.
so yeah,
If that were the case, I would definitely be more on the side of the. Because I don't think it's Patrick Mahomes' fault, but I do, as a sports fan, wish that everybody, the worst player, got the correct call when it was a penalty on him. Like the worst defensive lineman gets held, he should get that call and help his team for doing his job or whatever. Down to the quarterback who is knowingly being watched more than that guy and just getting the extra penalty. But I also agree with Dustin in that it's not that player's fault. I just wish the referee was making the correct call as opposed to, we have no choice as fans but to be like, I wish they would have called that, because we want the right call. But that is a fair perspective to have, Dustin, that it's not Patrick's fault. If anything, he would be a crappier football player if he didn't take advantage of that. So I agree with that, and I don't want to be just set in stone in my own opinion. I agree with that heavily.
Yeah, if I was more of a-hole coach, I would tell my running back to slide every time. You're gonna get flags.
If they call it,
as soon as you
if
get
they
to
call it,
slide, you're gonna get flagged all the time. Get us free yards all the time.
yeah, why not?
I just wish that the refs could correct the calls on the. I mean, what is instant replay for if you can't do that? So
Nobody wants to be Randy in the Sarcastaball episode. You know what I mean? You don't want to be that guy that changes the game in that way, though, to where you're running back sliding and then they let you hit them to a later extent to where guys are getting put in comas,
moving on to the other game, the shocker of the weekend, the Commanders and the Lions. Lions had no answer for the Commanders, 45-31. The Commanders blew them out in Detroit, and none of us picked that, and not many people in the world picked that. And so, yeah, looking at Jared Goff had a meltdown. 1 touchdown and 3 interceptions, all his fault. All bad decisions and bad throws. Jared Goff just had a rough time. Amon-Ra St. Brown played really well. Jahmyr Gibbs played excellent. He had 105 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns and another 70 yards through the air. The Lions played fine on offense. Obviously, they scored 31 points, except Jared Goff turned it over 3 times. Jaden Daniels didn't make mistakes. 22 of 31 for almost 300 yards and 2 scores. Terry McLaurin was great. Brian Robinson was really good running the ball. It just ended up being the Lions ran out of players, and they have so many players in injured reserve, especially on defense, that it was something I had talked about and why it was going to be a high-scoring game. And I was really close on this one. 4 points off. But yeah, I guess the other way though, obviously. But yeah, it was the Lions defense without anybody on their team couldn't stop that Commanders offense.
I got all the praise in the world for Jaden Daniels. I remember watching it, and I don't remember who the commentator was, but there's a point where their
Tom Brady
got by 2 or 3 scores. Yeah, Tom Brady 2 or 3 scores, and Tom Brady says, "Does Jaden Daniels have a pulse? He's just sitting there on the sideline, totally calm. Just you're up by 3 touchdowns in a playoff game. The man's just sitting there completely calm as if it's, just a totally normal Tuesday for him. And, and I'm just complete praise that man defined poise in this game and throughout this whole season. Rookie of the year for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I was thoroughly impressed by Washington. It was, I was not against them at all. I was just for Detroit. If you'd come over to our house that night, you would have seen me in a Lions t-shirt. You'd actually seen Pam in a Washington t-shirt. She was she's been slowly kind of becoming more going back to her roots. That's where she's from. So she was rooting for them a little bit, and but it was fun and I was just impressed. It was more like as you said, Scott, a meltdown by the Lions. I just feel bad for Dan Campbell. I feel bad for the coaching staff, which is now kind of one of their ways. Because I know they had stuck for one more year because they thought they could do it, and they probably would have had they not lost anyone to injury. But that's not what happened. So good on you, Washington, and hopefully Washington can beat the Eagles. We'll see.
Yeah, I think this is just a case of Washington absolutely outplaying the Lions, and specifically at the quarterback position. Jaden Daniels played extremely well, lights out basically, and not so much for Jared Goff. So I don't. Yeah, I was absolutely wrong about how I thought that game was going to go. And Washington is a lot better than I expected them to be.
That's true for just about everyone. No one expected the Commanders to even make the playoffs, let alone get where they are now. Speaking about someone who was very wrong, Dustin's score there. But yeah, so okay. Rams and Eagles. The first Sunday game. This one ended 28-22. It was kind of nuts actually, because it was what?
My score.
Look at
nice.
Wow, nice
Dead
job,
on.
Dustin. That's crazy. That's not a score you would normally see either. So that's
That's a
cool.
weird pick. Nice,
Yeah.
dude. Shout out.
It was. So it looked like the Eagles had it handily. They were up 28-14 in that game, and then with like 4 minutes left in the game, and the Rams go down the field pretty quickly, score a touchdown, get the 2-point conversion. They're down by just 6, and then they do a really quick defensive possession, get the ball back, and they get about the 25-yard line before it's over. So they almost won that game. And it should not have ever happened. But looking at the stats, Saquon Barkley had another MVP-like game. He rushed for over 200 yards in that game with 2 touchdowns. He is just you give him an alley and he's gone. Like there are of all of the 50-plus yard touchdown runs in the NFL this year, Saquon Barkley alone has 20% of them.
Jeez.
So he is just insane how good that guy is. Jalen Hurts got hurt in that game. But he finished it. He didn't play all that. He didn't throw all that much. But when he did, 15 of 20 for 128 yards and rushed for 70 yards and a score. Matthew Stafford on the other side was pretty good. 324 yards and 2 scores. Puka Nacua was great. Kyron Williams rushed for over 100 yards. So they played fine, especially in the end when they were trying to come back. But yeah, I think I gave my analysis there that Saquon Barkley, in my opinion, like all kudos to Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen, Saquon Barkley should be the MVP.
Agreed.
Quickly, I want to point out that all of us were really in the neighborhood for the score on this sweep. Like, I mean, I don't think anybody was more than a field goal off, right? Oh, yeah. Scott's
a little. I was slightly, a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, but barely. I mean, an extra field goal off. But that's pretty impressive. And I think Saquon Barkley is the difference on this Eagle team, and that's all I'll really say. How hurt was Hurts? Is he out for?
No, I think he'll play this week, but he might be a little bit more limited than normal. I think sprained a MCL or something like that. So it's not a huge injury that he can't play through, but it might limit him.
Yeah, that's a big deal in football, though.
I think the one question I have right now is, has the Giants GM resigned yet?
No.
Because he should be feeling pretty terrible watching this happen. So, but I mean, Saquon Barkley is just a beast. He's just an animal, and he's fun to watch. I every time I think of him now, all I can think about is his backwards hurdle a few weeks ago that he had done. That was just amazing. So, it was a pretty good game. I think. A lot of my predictions as far as, being a kind of a close game and Puka Nacua not really being able to be stopped, stuff like that kind of came true. But in the end of the game, Eagles just had Saquon. When you have Saquon, you're gonna win, and that's gonna build up a big challenge for Washington.
Dustin, anything?
No, nothing to add. This is great.
Okay. Ravens and Bills, a great game. Came down 27-25. Bills win, and the reason that it ended like that will be talked about all offseason, because the Ravens scored a touchdown there. They were down 27-19. And so down by 8 points, and Lamar Jackson takes them all the way down the field, throws a touchdown with a few seconds left in that game. And go for two. He does a rollout and throws it to Mark Andrews, perfect pass, and Mark Andrews drops the 2-point conversion, and so the Bills win the game. Otherwise, it goes into overtime. Who knows what happens in overtime if that happens? But they didn't get that to that point. So a lot lower scoring than everyone except maybe Yancey. But yeah, it was a great game. That the turnovers were the story. Lamar Jackson had a fumble and interception in that game. Bills didn't turn it over at all, and so Bills win the turnover battle and they win the game.
I was actually only a total of 6 points off there with my prediction. 3 points on each side.
Well, and you picked that they would win by 2, though. That's what's impressive to me.
That's true. I didn't see that.
Yeah.
I think my only main thing I want to share here is this kind of what happened with Mark Andrews. It reminds you that although they're professionals, they're really good. They make mistakes sometimes, right? They're not gonna be 100% every single time, every single game. That's just not how it works. You're human, right? And it kind of hurts me, kind of breaks my heart a little bit hearing about a lot of the Ravens fans are backlashing against Mark Andrews, criticizing him so negatively. And I understand why they are, because, they could have won. Who knows what had happened in overtime, but no one's more critical of that other than Mark Andrews. And we all know that. He's been beating himself up about it. I know we all saw a post that he came out about it today. And I respect Lamar Jackson a lot. There's, he was seen saying to him, hey, man, this is a team game. It's not on you. It's not all on you. That's what he was saying. But I mean, the truth is, it's just like, he had a chance. He dropped it. That happens. Come back next year, do what you can.
Yeah,
Dustin, Yancey?
I think that Cody, to back up your point here, how do you practice a snow game? You got to get out there and try to catch balls in the snow when your gloves are wet and it's 12 degrees outside, and that's not an opportunity that happens very much. And so it's hard thing to practice, hard thing to prepare for. But the Ravens made lots of mistakes. I mean, Andrews had that fumble earlier on in the game, and as well as several interceptions, and just mistakes that happened. That the Bills didn't make those kind of mistakes, and that's what it takes to win high pressure games, is less mistakes.
Yeah, I think football a lot of times comes down to who makes less mistakes. I can't disagree with that statement from Dustin. I think that the Bills were able to capitalize on the fact that the Ravens didn't get that 2-point conversion, and up to that point, the Bills had kind of played better football, forced the Ravens into turnovers, and it looked like the pressure got to Lamar Jackson a couple of times, like on that fumbled snap that led to another fumble, like when he kind of hit the ground with the ball and it squirted out. And the Bills were just able to capitalize on those moments where the Ravens gave up the ball, and I think that was crucial, and that's what led to them winning by 2.
Yep. Okay. Let's talk about the 2 games this weekend. The NFC Championship game. Okay. First, I have a piece of trivia for you guys. Jaden Daniels is now the 6th rookie quarterback to ever start a conference championship game. Can you name the other 5?
Rookies to start in a conference game?
A conference championship game.
Mark Sanchez is one.
Mark Sanchez is one. Yes.
Nope.
Nah. Nope.
Joe Flacco. Ben Roethlisberger. Brock Purdy a couple years ago, remember? And the last one is, no one would get this one. His name is Sean King for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers back in 2000. All 5 of those previous ones lost that game. So Jaden Daniels has the chance to be the first rookie quarterback to ever start a Super Bowl if he wins this game. At quarterback, that's pretty impressive if he can do it. Again, this is a divisional game in the AFC East. 3rd time these teams have played. They split the season. They each won on each other's home field in the season. And so, looking at the stars again, Saquon Barkley was fantastic, and the Eagles love to run the ball, and they're really good at running the ball. They're number 1 rushing offense in the league. How are the Commanders going to control that? Are they going to be able to stop that a little bit? Jalen Hurts, again, being a little limited because of a knee injury, makes his running a little bit maybe precarious. But he was fine throwing the ball. Just he may have to throw the ball a little bit more in this game rather than run it. So, or Saquon Barkley's going to run it more. On the other side, Jaden Daniels, like you've said, like we've all said about the last game, he's just so poised. He does not make mistakes. He is as good of a quarterback as there is in this league, and he's a rookie. And so but this Eagles defense is also number 1 in the league in yards allowed. So how can the Commanders get that? So I'm going to get out of here and. Oh boy, I think we left off. I think Cody did our last one. So Dustin, you get to start.
Yeah, I think that this game it's the first team to 25. If the Eagles can make it a low-scoring, slow, run-based game, Eagles win. But if the Commanders can score at a pace that they've proven that they can, Commanders win. And so I think thinking about this, I'm gonna pull a bold one here and say Commanders win. Commanders go to the Super Bowl, 31-23.
I think if Jalen Hurts is limited, as much as he looked like he was at the end of last game, if he's that limited again, I think the Eagles struggle in this game because his running is a big part of what the Eagles do. Obviously, Saquon is the big one, but Jalen Hurts rushes for 70 yards every game, and if he can't run for that, if he can't scramble, and they just and they have to force 8 men in the box or 7 men in the box all the time, it's going to be difficult for the Eagles to run. I think Saquon pulls off one of his 60-yard runs in this game, but other than that, I think he runs maybe 2 or 3 yards every carry. I think the Commanders can do a really good job of doing that, and so I'm actually agreeing with Dustin on this one that the Commanders are going to win this game. It's going to be really close, and it's going to be fairly defensive. I'm taking a 20-16 score. Yancey.
All right, bit of a wild prediction here. I agreed with something that Dustin said in the chat, and that it's going to be a Commander-in-Chief Super Bowl. I agree with that. We're going to go with the Commanders. The score is going to be 45-47, baby. Let's go. Merry Christmas.
Cody, are we sweeping the Commanders here?
I
Talk to
think
us.
we
All
might.
right.
Let's see.
So-
Is Cody going to talk some sense into us? And I say this because Jalen Hurts is injured. I think that's what affects the game.
So here are my thoughts. I think this game comes down to who can convert the most fourth downs. That's what this game is going to come down to. We know that the Eagles have the tush push. If it's 4th and 1, they're going to get it every single time. All right. And they have Saquon Barkley. They do have a limited Jalen Hurts. But they have a pretty good offensive line. Commanders go for it often, so that you don't know if it's 50-50 what they're going to do, but it's going to come down to whoever gets the most fourth down conversions. With that being said, because the Eagles have this tush push and are so good at it, they're also really good at defending things like that. So I'm going to say that the Eagles are going to win this game because of their ability to stop fourth down conversions. And that's going to be the only reason they win. With that being said, it's going to be a defensive game, so I agree with low scoring. I'm going to say Eagles 22-17.
Okay.
Although I really want the Commanders to win. Let me say that.
Okay. Next one. Oops. Okay, Bills and Chiefs. It's crazy because obviously we know the Bills have not beaten the Chiefs in the playoffs. But during the regular season, they've played 5 times and the Bills have won 4 of them. And so the Bills can beat the Chiefs. It's just when it gets to the playoffs, it's been a little tough. Last year was because the Bills were missing like everybody. They were down a lot of people. This year's not exactly that case. And so they're both relatively healthy going into this game. Again, the Bills are the best in turnovers forced, as well as one of the best in turnovers given up. They don't turn the ball over, and they turn people over pretty frequently. The Chiefs in the playoffs, they never turn the ball over. They don't make mistakes in the playoffs, it seems. So that seems to be where it's going to come to bat here. I think, as I talked about last week, the Chiefs this is probably the worst offensive line the Chiefs have had since that Super Bowl against the Buccaneers a few years ago. So rushing the passer against the Chiefs it has been a problem for the last couple of games because they don't have a left tackle. But this is Travis Kelce shows up in the playoffs. Patrick Mahomes shows up in the playoffs. What's going to happen there? And then on this side of the ball, Josh Allen didn't throw the ball a whole lot last week. It was very kind of a game manager type of game from him. He did run the ball. He ran for 2 scores in that game. But so it comes down to what the Bills are going to want to do on offense. How they are going to want to keep that ball. If they can keep the ball away from the Chiefs, it might be a difficult one. But if the Chiefs show up the way that they have in the playoffs on both sides of the ball, the Bills could be staring at another defeat in the playoffs. So it's my turn first. I don't like that. But well, we know that pretty much 98% of America wants to see Commanders versus Bills. The only people that don't are those in Kansas City and about 2 million teenage girls. But so other than that, we know we want a Bills Commanders game, and I said it last year, and I'm going to say it again this year. I think the Bills have finally figured out the Chiefs. And so I think the Bills win this game and go back to the Super Bowl for the first time since the early 90s. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be a high-scoring game. It's going to be a slugfest that the Bills finally come out with. I'm going to say 21-20 on a last-second field goal that Tyler Bass finally makes up for missing the one last year.
Disagree. Chiefs score is going to be 28-14, and it's going to be, I think both Mahomes and Allen are coming off of not so great performances, and Mahomes is going to do some freakish thing that puts them up, and that's what's going to happen there.
All right. So, okay, this is kind of weird. So I think I agree with you, Scott, that it's going to be a low-scoring game, but I also don't think there's going to be any punting in the first half. And so what I mean by that is I think that these are going to be slow, long drives, and each time each team has the ball, they're going to score. It's going to take 8 minutes to do it, but they're going to go score. So I think it's going to be tied 21-21 or something like that the first half. And then in the second half, it's almost going to be all punting, except for a little bit of scoring there. So I think it's going to be Bills at the end. I think we're splitting here. That's my guess, but Dustin can go for it. But I think we're going to split. And at the end, I think the Bills are going to win 31-24.
Yeah. Dustin, explain why I'm putting that there.
Well, I guess first of all is Cody, Scott, you guys particularly, you guys don't seem to have a lot of confidence. All season long, you've been talking about Chiefs are terrible this year. They're the worst 15-1 team ever. They're the only team that's won games losing, scoring less than 20 points. And then here you are saying Bills are only going to win by one score. I don't know if it's going to be possible. It's going to be so tight. I mean, come on. But another comment I have is, so I think this is like the fourth year. 4 out of the last 5 years that the Bills and the Chiefs have met up in the playoffs, I think, right? I mean, how crazy is it? What kind of team would lose 4 straight, extremely important playoff games in a row? How could that happen? I mean, for those of you who don't know, the Bills lost 4 Super Bowls in a row in the early 90s.
Yeah.
So, I think it's going to happen again for the second time in the franchise, lose 4 important games. But I think it's going to be a fun, exciting, close game. Chiefs win 24-22 due to a failed 2-point conversion by the Bills.
Yeah, and Dustin, if I could comment on, I think the Chiefs are different in the playoffs, and that's why I'm taking this to be a lot closer than maybe it would have been in a regular season game. So, yeah. Okay. I am going to stop share, and I'm also going to drop off this call. I have to go take care of some things. It might stop the recording if I drop off since I recorded it, or it may continue. I don't know. But you guys can continue to talk if you want, or we can just end it for everybody. So
I think we're good, right? That's what we agreed.
Okay.
Anybody got anything to add?
If we want to talk about the coaching hires.
Yeah, I just remembered that. Let's just mention it real quick. We'll talk about it more in depth next week. But we've had 3 coaching hires so far from the. So one, obviously, the Patriots have hired their former player Mike Vrabel, former Titans coach. He's coming back to coach the New England Patriots, coming home there. Meanwhile, both of the Lions coordinators, Ben Johnson on offense and Aaron Glenn on defense, have left to become coaches of other teams. Ben Johnson stayed in his own division, and he's now the Chicago Bears head coach. Aaron Glenn goes home to the New York Jets, where he was a first-round draft pick of the Jets back in the late 90s and went to 2 Pro Bowls with the Jets as a cornerback. Now he's their head coach. So.
I guess some comments I would have is for the Jets. It sounds very Jets-like that the Lions allow 45 points and have a total drop of ball on defense, and the Jets like, yep, that's our guy. Let's hire him. That's a Jets thing for sure.
Yeah.
The other comment is, if I had a nickel every time that the Patriots hired a former player linebacker to be their coach in an effort to bring back fans of the franchise to them during the failing years, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but it's weird that it happened twice.
In a row. Yeah. Year after year.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. I was surprised that Ben Johnson went to the Bears. I mean, he was the most sought after head coach candidate, and I thought he would have been biding his time to go to the Saints. That's what I was thinking, but I was surprised. But we'll talk about that more in depth next week, unless anyone has any more comments right now about those coaching hires. Okay. We may have more next week as well. So, okay. Thanks, everyone. We'll talk next week and review these 2 championship games. Okay.
Yeah.